All right, so then we're back on track for our next speaker, which will be Pam Crabtree, talking about herding and hunting at Neolithic and Chalcolithic Tepecik-Çiftlik in Central Anatolia. So
Great.
the floor is yours.
I will try to share my screen. Ah, wonderful. Thank you. I am delighted to be here, and I will attempt to be quick since I am the last speaker in this long group. But I want to say a little bit about hunting and herding at Neolithic and Chalcolithic Tepecik, and also a little bit that I think touches on something that Umberto had said earlier in the day, which is part of this is really passing the torch. I mean, I am a original baby boomer. I will be retiring this summer at the end of August. And I have a Turkish colleague who will be taking over, particularly looking at the issue of cattle domestication. So if you can show the first slide, please. Thank you. Just to give you a little bit of background, we were invited to work at Tepecik on the faunal remains and the work bone objects, and that included myself for the faunal material and my husband and colleague Douglas Campana on the worked bone. While we were working at Kinnikhoyuk is a nearby site. For a number of years, it was directed by my colleague from NYU, and basically it has Bronze Age through to medieval. So, one of the attractive features of this is that having the Neolithic and Chalcolithic, it would give us almost a complete sequence from the beginnings of farming through to the end of the Middle Ages. Basically, Tepecik was occupied from the final pre-pottery Neolithic to the early Chalcolithic. And basically, when we went to Tepecik, we began work on the early Chalcolithic back in 2014, simply because another Turkish student was interested in the Neolithic, but he did not follow through. So we began to work on the Neolithic material in 2023. Unfortunately, due to my husband's health and a number of other causes, we were not able to get back last summer in 2025. The other sad feature of the project is that, as many of you know, Erhan Baguchka passed away, and the project is now directed by the previous co-director, Hasim Chakan. And his analysis of the radiocarbon dates indicate that the Neolithic occupation dates from about 7,000 to 6,000 BCE. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a very quick, just to show you the location of Tepecik in Central Anatolia, in an area that is archaeologically terrifically rich. Next slide, please. Okay, and we've got two slides here just to give you a sense of the environment around Tepecik. You can see areas that have been previously excavated here. You will notice that the area immediately around the town and the site is very lush agricultural area. But if you look in the back, particularly on your right, you will see that it is surrounded by hills and mountains. And one of the interesting things is that we are getting a mix of domesticates that were probably raised on or near site, and we're getting wild material, particularly things that would have been suitable to a forested environment. And while these hills are largely denuded today, when we look at the late Neolithic, early Chalcolithic, the environment was probably quite different and with a substantial number of trees. Next slide will just show you a second view of the site taken from the alternate perspective, and you can see the productive farmland in use to this day. Next slide, please. Here we can see we are working through the animal bones. Here is Gamze here. She's working with me. She is taking over for her PhD thesis. She will be looking at the material from the cattle material from Tepecik to look at cattle domestication. Next slide, please. Just showing you what you got. You can see dominated by sheep and goat, smaller numbers of cattle, but the domestication of the cattle is very interesting. Small numbers of domestic dog. Next, please. Same issue, just showing proportions of, the first slide was NISP. This one is proportions of NISP. And you can see, sheep, goat dominate, but cattle are also important. Next, please. And just you can see here very quickly substantial quantities of wild animal, red deer, roe deer, brown bear, and also fox and hare, which would have been endemic to the agricultural landscape. Next, please. And just a final shot, since I'm running out of time. This is a crew picture from several years ago when Erhan was still alive, and I want to dedicate this to his kindness. He was a wonderful archaeologist and very generous to both me and to my colleague Doug Campana. So with that, I will say thank you very much and take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Pam. That was a lovely talk. We already have a question from Ebru, so yeah, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hello, thank you very much for your speech. I was curious about the peaks actually at the site. Have you encountered with peak bones, and if you have, what was the percentage compared to the sheep, goat, and cattle?
There is a small amount of pig, but it's much, it's tinier. It's tinier than the cattle. It's tinier than the sheep. It's tinier than the goat. It's tinier than the caprine.
Thank you very much.
No, good question. And in fact, I wanted to check the exact numbers yesterday, and I just didn't get to the database. That's the other thing, is that we have used this. One of my other concerns, just since I've got you here, is creating a database, because again, none of us are going to last forever, and we use a database that Doug Campana wrote, but it will print out to Excel. So all these data will be available even after all of us have gone to the great beyond. And that's another concern with this, is that, someone could come back with new metrical techniques and reanalyze the metric data, things like that.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the audience for now? If not, I'll just interject with a cheeky question of myself. So Pam, I was on that penultimate slide, you could see the wildlife representation in NISP, and it's noticeable that your hare numbers suddenly go on quite to increase. I think I forgot the exact number, it's almost doubling. Do you have some hypotheses on why?
Well, I have a couple. One is that, I will be honest, I am not, there is a lot of hare in the area today. Obviously, the Chalcolithic was above the Neolithic, and there may possibly be some modern material in there. The other thing that, because I was running out of time, I didn't get to say, of course, is that one of the things you see is that we get fox and we get hare, and this makes a lot of sense because foxes are the traditional prey of hares. Hares would have been hanging around the site itself because you've got the grain, which is attractive to them, and I think the hares were attractive to the foxes. But I do have some concern that not all of the hare that we got, some of it may come from, have been slightly moved from upper levels. But yeah, it's, I think some of this is also there. The other thing in terms of the numbers is just that, which is important to note, is that we spent several seasons working on the Chalcolithic material. So there is absolutely more of that material, whereas it was only when our colleague decided that he didn't want to continue with the Neolithic that we took over the Neolithic in the last 1 or 2 sessions that we worked there. And again, it's been difficult, but my colleague Gamza will take over. She will look at the question of the domestication status of the cattle. And, as someone who is obviously of a certain age, I am just delighted to pass the torch. And I think that's something else that's very important. I was trained by Dexter Perkins, Pat Daly, and other people who are no longer with us. Hans P. Ortman is one of the few that is with us, I think. And so it's really important that I think we pass the torch on to the next generation.
Yeah, thank you. And that's also just lovely to hear about that, thinking of the longevity project-wise is really good to hear as a early career researcher myself. We've got some, sorry, go ahead, Pam.
Basically so much of this material that there is plenty for everyone, quite honestly. And because they are continuing to excavate, it gets bigger every year.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I think Abu might have a question as well, or a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Pam. So I'm just taking this opportunity to ask you a question. So how is the medical situation? I hope of your husband. So he's okay, right?
Yeah, he is. what he has, which just makes it hard for him in the field, is he has some nerve damage in his feet, which means that he doesn't have the sensitivity of the ground or the floor underneath of him. So it makes it harder for him to walk, and particularly to walk long distances, which is really tough for him because he has spent, the last 60 years as a field archaeologist.
But thank you very much. Even within this hard time, you make it and you joined with us. Thank you very much.
And I'm so glad that Gamsa will take over the cattle, because I think this is a really exciting project, and we've been talking about methods on the intertubes. And I'm just grateful to you guys for organizing this, because I've loved hearing all the other papers, and for giving me the opportunity, because it's only 6:30 in the morning where I am.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm assuming there's no other questions specifically for you, so I think we still have 4 minutes. We've had a lovely session with very different topics, but still temporally linked. Since we have 3 minutes, I'd like to open up the floor if someone just wants to throw in some general questions or comment or things you've noticed. It's your time to give your opinion if you'd like. If no one feels the need to, since we've had like quite a short break last time, if Abu agrees, maybe this is the time to have a bit of a longer break. Power nap if you've been up since
we will
early.
go for a lunch break, 1 hour. But
Oh, okay.
before we go, we have to do the
The
screenshots.
snapshot.
Yeah, snapshots. So I'm inviting everybody to open their camera, and our colleagues, Rafael, you're gonna take the snapshots, right? Rafael, tell us okay when you are done.
Okay. Tell us when to smile.
Exactly. Maybe a countdown.